John. John is not on the call. Okay. So I'll just answer it, but I would have loved if John could have given us more context. Anyway, now John's question is, does a product manager have anything to do with the budget, financial implications of creating a product? Some of your classes, because for the last, I think it was week 8 or week 7 when we talked about QA testing. I don't remember, but it was either week 7 or week 8. And some classes had this question about pricing and how you will manage it in light of a potential delayed launch. Now, you are not. Remember that product management is a cross-functional role. So what that means is you are not going to be single-handedly responsible for things that are outside products, right? Now, in terms of pricing, it is not your primary responsibility. However, you will be in the room in conversations where pricing conversations are happening because, first of all, it is your product. Only you can give the relevant context that whoever. Oh, Paul, why you don't want to ask the question? Okay, Paul, let me let you speak so you can give me context. Paul, you can unmute your mic.
There isn't much context with this one, but I asked 3 questions, this one and the next question.
Oh, okay. So ask the one I've answered, this one and the next one.
Yes.
All right. Okay, noted. Okay, so as I was already answering, you are going to be in the room as a product manager, but yeah, it will not be your primary responsibility. However, you have context for the product. And so you guide the finance team on setting pricing. What that means is they will have questions. What kind of products are you what kind of product is your product? What industry will be clear because everybody's in the company. But what type of users are you targeting? What's your demographics? Because demographics will also influence pricing. If you're targeting Gen Z, your pricing will be different from if you're targeting middle income earners, like people in their 30s to 40s. They have higher earning capacity compared to Gen Zs or millennials. Yeah, compared to Gen Zs, right? So they'll ask you what's your demographic, what kind of features do you have, and then that will influence the pricing recommendations that they will give you for your product. And you can push back if you believe that their suggestions do not align with your product, or they do not, or you believe that they are not well informed, or their suggestion is not reflective of your product and your industry. You can push back, and then everybody goes back to drawing board and they give you better suggestions. But you will not be primarily responsible, but you'll be in the room when these conversations are had, and you will have some measure of inputs. Now, let me take the next question that Paul had. Can a PM work alongside a project manager? If yes, what would the relationship look like? Yes, so a PM can work alongside a project manager, but maybe the project, first of all, the company has to be a big company, or the only context that I have seen a PM work alongside someone else is a Scrum Master, right? And Scrum Master is Scrum methodology. So a Scrum Master will sort of be in charge of operations, managing the team, ensuring the team is doing their sprint planning sessions, ensuring the team is on time, ensuring the sprints are going as planned, which frees up the product manager, or in the context of Scrum, the product manager is referred to as a product owner. And so working with a Scrum Master frees up the product owner to focus on core product responsibilities, right? So things like writing user stories, writing acceptance criteria, managing the backlog, all of those things that are the things that a product owner will now be tasked with. So core product activities. Whereas I know that in really big companies like Google or Meta, you find project managers on a tech team, and it is because it's a really big technology company and there are multiple products and multiple projects happening. So a project manager will most likely be managing the operations of all the projects that needs to happen. So a project manager will be more focused on operations, whereas the product manager will be more focused on product to core product functionalities. Paul, does that answer your question?
Yes, I have one more question that I couldn't type in the form. Can I ask it now?
You can ask.
Okay, so I'm looking at a scenario where you're working on a product team and you're not so blessed with a creative team. And I also know that personality influences your management style. So let's say you're a perfectionist and your team cannot give you what you want. How involved can you get in maybe showing them how to do the job without micromanaging them at the same time?
That's a good question. So you can, first of all, try to standardize your expectations. And what I mean by that is document document your expectations. So if your expectation of let's say design is you want them to give you a specific type of screen or a specific type of design, document it on your PRD, right? And when you are having your sync with them, you clearly communicate it. Now, what documentation or what documenting your expectation does is that even if the team is not creative, you have now given them some sort of guide that is up to your personal standard, right? So it's somehow if you've not initially mentioned that this is your expectation and they do the work and you're now saying, people not do it well, oh, why do you not do this one like this? Why do you not do that one like that? But when you've documented very clear expectations, when you are starting work, you make it clear that, oh, this is the expectations, this is when you are conducting your review, you bring it up again. You didn't do this thing that I said we should do. What's up? They go back and they do it, right? And in so doing, you are guiding them in implementing the quality of work that you would prefer.
All right, thank you. I think I'm done for now.
All right. David Abulu. If I'll take some more questions from the form, but David Abulu, you can unmute your mic.
Good afternoon, Judith, and good
Good
afternoon, everyone. Okay, so my question is just to the last assignment, right? So I just want to ask a question. You said QA is is holistic, right? And then QC is what happens just before the launch. Or the assignment you asked us, you said we should do a QA for the
Yes,
product launch. So
yes, that was intentional.
I've submitted the assignment, but I wanted to understand, was it QA you were referring to or QC?
I was referring to QC, but and I intentionally used QA because remember during the class I had mentioned that on the field, like in the work environment, it is very common practice that QA is used interchangeably with QC. And so, as the product manager, if someone is talking about QA, you know it's product testing they're talking about, which in literary terms, product testing is referred to as QC, but just in for whatever reason in the ecosystem, in the field, on job market, they tend to use QA testing to refer to product testing.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. This is why I also recommend you guys read this slide before you do your homework, because the slides are not for fancy. I did make I made it clear on the slide that this is what happens on the field. So some of the things I'm explaining to you are also documented on the slide. And then you have the recordings, which you can always go over if there's any point of confusion. Folashade.
Good
Folashade.
afternoon, ma.
Good
Yes, ma. Good
afternoon.
afternoon, ma.
Yeah.
Yes, ma. Like before, Mr. Davis spoke, someone was talking about a question about the product manager being a perfectionist and the likes of it. So I still want to talk on that because I've worked with someone that's so called himself a perfectionist. There is absolutely nothing, ma. Like the person I work with, though, there's nothing you do that can suit, like I don't know if you understand, that can suit whatever is in their mind, because to them they are the one imagining it. This is what they want, and you know that humans, we are kind of being different about things. Like you already explained that, let them follow, but I just feel that they cannot satisfy that person.
Okay, so
So
I
in that
if you,
what should one do?
did you try to? So you said this is a real experience. Did you try to talk to the person to ask them clearly what's your expectation?
Yes, ma. Like I've worked in short, it was so frustrating. Everyone around him got so frustrated. It was only just one boy, and that one is eye service that is doing. That's just because everybody just knows high service. Because you can't just, if you say this, if you do it like this, if you say no, why can't you hide this? Why can't? So when you just mentioned that, I felt I don't think oh man, it is hard. So what can
Mhm.
one do? Yes, because this is a project. They are the one who thinks on our head. Okay, the man I worked with, he was working on a project. He can practically come to them and say, okay, this is the way I want it. Tomorrow, when you started working on that one, tomorrow he comes again and say, no, 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 no. As I slept yesterday night, another idea come to my mind. Let's do it like this. No, like, it's very, very hard. So in that situation, what do you expect
There's
to
nothing
do?
you can do. That one is just a difficult stakeholder. Maybe you bid your time there and try to move to a better work environment. So it's
Have you
it best being professional.
Ah, I've even left anyways. I've left the place, but I've just tried to relate. Immediately just say perfection. Because when he comes, he just says, I want everything to be perfect. I want this, I want that. He brings out his own idea. Okay, if you try working it, he will say, no, 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 this is not it. Even carpenter or anything, he doesn't agree that this is what he said because at one point or the other, something is wrong.
That one is not professionalism. It's a difficult stakeholder. Very
Ah,
difficult stakeholder. And it's so bad because he's the team leader, B.
yes.
So sorry. Really?
But ma, if we come across with that person, like me in a product manager, if the person is our product manager, what do you think you can do?
And the
Because
person
it can be so frustrating.
and the person is your manager. There's not so it's difficult, right? If the person is your manager, I will recommend having a conversation with the person, right? But you said in this scenario, um, you tried to have a conversation with the person. And so when you try to have a conversation with the person to say, hey, your working style is frustrating me. Is there anything I can do to make our working relationship better? If you try a conversation and it's not working, my recommendation is to find somewhere else to work because that's just a difficult person and they are your manager and they can make life very, very difficult for you at your workplace. So there's not much you can do in this kind of context. It's even easier if the difficult stakeholder is someone else on the team, not your direct manager. You can even
Exactly.
you can manage that one because you report the person to your manager, report the person to higher up. But when it's your direct manager, it's tough. It's very dicey.
Okay, thank you very much, ma.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, did you join the class just now? Because I did mention, I mentioned earlier that the attendance form is live, so you probably just joined. And maybe you weren't listening then. So, our next question is, can a product manager also work as a product designer for the same product? Yes, but I would like to know why. Who asked this question? Augusta. Augusta, why are you the one that asked this question? Who asked this question? Please indicate, raise your hand. Okay, it wasn't Augusta. So who asked this question on the form? I can't see. Let me check. I can't seem to see the initial responses. Okay, Tolu Alope John was the one that asked. Tolu Alope, why do you want to work as a product manager and a product designer? Is there context that we don't have before I answer this question? Tolu Alope, if you're on the call, please indicate so that we can But if you're not here, I will just attempt to answer. First of all, I'd like to know why it is possible, and I have seen it happen, but I'd like to know why a product manager wants to work as a product designer, because it's not really, it works though, but again, you can see the amount of workloads that a product manager is managing. So I'm not sure why you want to concurrently manage both. Augusta, you're asking, can we, the new students, have a recap of week 1 to 3, especially on PRD writing? And will it be possible to get your answers on the assignments we have done so far, especially the ones that have to do with problem solving skills, like last week's assignments and the week before that? So the answers for, is there anybody that I grade and I don't give feedback? Anybody? Livingston, I didn't give you feedback. What was your score? Praise, what was your score? For the one I didn't give feedback for. 10. Why would I give you feedback for 10 over 10? You people are not serious. I'm talking about someone who didn't score 10 over 10 and I didn't give them feedback on what they did. If you scored a 10, then you probably answered the questions correctly. Right. And even some people, I know that I give feedback for some people who maybe they answer the question correctly, but there are ways they could have answered it better. But if you don't score a 10 over 10 and I do not give you feedback, what I'm just trying to say is that it will be difficult. There's so many of you here, and I cannot individually give feedback on what you did wrong or what you didn't do wrong. And sometimes, even if you don't score a 10 over 10, it's not that you did something wrong. It's just that maybe you didn't answer it the way I had thought, and not even the way I thought, but you didn't incorporate, because there's no specific, when I'm asking a question, like the last assignment now, there's no wrong answer, there's no right answer. But I wanted to see how you guys would think as a product manager. So I wanted to see what's your mental framework for solving problems. Are you thinking like a product manager? Because so far throughout the duration of this course, I know I have touched on how you escalate, how you solve problems, and some of you got it really well, right? Some not really well, but you answered the question correctly. So it will be difficult, honestly, for me to give you specific feedback on what you did wrong or what you didn't do right. Philly, I didn't give you feedback. As I said, there's too many of you for me to be giving individual feedback, honestly. I try, but sometimes it's a lot. What we can do is, what can we do? What we can do is ask me specific questions. That's easier for me to give you feedback. Ask me specific questions and I will tell you what's wrong and what is not wrong. But to say I should give feedback on all the assignments, it means I will have to give, unless you want me to, okay, is it that you want me to give feedback on, is that you want me to give feedback on all the assignments, generic feedback, not individual feedback? Is that what you want? So you want us to answer the assignments? Is that what you guys want? See? So if it's individual, it's difficult because everybody answers questions their own way. All right, we'll do, okay, so everybody's voting for no. But, all right, Gloria, so we'll do a recap. This will be, I'll come back to Augusta's question, which is, can we, the new students, have a recap of week 1 to 3, especially on parody writing? I will end the class with this. So let's move on to other questions, and then I'll come back to this, and because it will take a bit of time. Omotosho Precious is saying, I did not Omotosho Tony Precious, are you a new student? because you are saying you did not understand how to develop roadmap and backlog. And I think this was week 3 and week 4, if I'm not mistaken. In case you only have access to your mobile phone, which application is best for backlog and roadmap? All the apps work on mobile phone. Notion has a mobile app. Google Word has a mobile app. I think Jira has a mobile app. I'm not so sure, but I think Jira has a mobile app. And so you can use all the apps on your phone as well as on your desktop. So is it that you are saying you don't understand how to develop a roadmap, or you don't understand how to use your mobile phone to develop a backlog and roadmap? Let me know which of the question you're asking, so Precious. Precious, I'm waiting for your feedback. You can just raise your hands and speak. Oh, but you don't need Figma to develop a backlog or a roadmap. Okay, so Jira has a mobile app. You used Canva. Precious, you and I have had this conversation already in my DM. You used Canva, and I told you that there was, if you listen to all the recording, there's no time. The only time I mentioned Canva was when we were doing customer templates, right? During marketing, when we were talking about marketing strategies. And I said I used Canva to develop my customer persona template. Why are you using Canva for a backlog or a roadmap? Those are not the tools. I did not mention it as a tool during my teaching. It's not on the slides. So that's why I said you used the wrong app. And it means that you weren't in class. And the first time you did it, I think I left a comment for you, right? I'm not sure. But I know you also came to my DM and I told you that you're using the wrong app. And I told you what app to use. So you shouldn't be using Canva. If you even do your research, you'll see that you shouldn't be using Canva. Amina Oyerinde, those of you whose hands are up, don't worry, I'll take your questions. Or, okay, let's take some questions from the class. Livingstone, your hands have been up since. Livingstone, you can unmute your mic.
Okay. So I have many questions actually. So
Wait, hold on. Livingstone, hold on before you ask. If you've not taken your attendance, please click on the link in the chat and take your attendance. All right, Livingstone, you can go.
Okay. So my questions are much, but I will ask one first so that I can allow other people to.
Okay.
I was reading, so I stumbled on one video about the lean methodology. So I compared the slide with it, and what's on the slide is the lean startup methodology, which is quite different from what the man thought. What the man thought was that the lean methodology is more likely, is not really like for a digital product. And if we are to apply the lean methodology to a digital product, that would be a like the application of a lean methodology to a digital product is now the agile methodology. So he now said that the agile methodology is divided into two, which is the Scrum and the Kanban. So I want to verify how true it is.
Did you Google, when you finished reading about lean methodology, did you Google lean startup methodology?
No, I didn't check the lean startup
Okay,
methodology.
that's your own
But I
personal
want
answer.
to be sure.
Go and Google it. Google it. Since you've read on one, go and Google on the other, because there's a specific reason why we talked about lean startup methodology.
Like, is it different from lean methodology? Like, are they different? Or is it the same?
You already said that lean methodology is something that, so the concept of lean methodology was initially developed for factories, right? Industries that had production industries. Now, in being able to apply it to digital products or technology, they have to coin should I say a subset of it that will apply to our context in digital products or digital companies. Do you understand? So that's why I said Google it so you can have the full picture, because you read just one angle and you're asking me if it's true. So you have to have a holistic view, and then we can have a holistic conversation.
Okay.
You can ask your
So how
second
about
question.
the agile methodology now? Because now I'm on the slide, and after the agile methodology that you explained, you just the next slide talked about the Scrum framework. So
Okay.
the Scrum and the Kanban, and are they under agile methodology?
Yes, they
Because
are
I
on
think
that
I'm
Yes, they are.
okay. I get that.
So Scrum, Lean, Kanban, they are all under Agile.
Okay.
Was that the second question?
I still have many questions. Other people should talk.
Okay. All right. Let me go back to the form. Amina is asking, as someone just transitioning into product management from an entirely different background, how do you make up and be employable? I saw an internship application, and part of the requirements was that the person should not be more than 26. So, okay, I mentioned, was it last class? I mentioned that when you see, I think it was Augusta who asked this question about the job adverts that we are seeing, or that you guys are seeing, or that she saw, had a prerequisite of a specific background in bachelor. So they were asking for BSc in computer science or BSc in engineering, and I told her to ignore it and apply regardless. And so I'm going to give the same advice for age, right? First of all, the company you are applying to, I truly don't see any reason why they are segregating based on age, especially in a non-traditional career like product management, right? It's not like people go to school in Nigeria to learn it. So again, I don't understand why there's such a barrier. However, if you find that you see a job ad and they're telling you that you should not be older than a specific age, I'll still ignore it and apply nonetheless, right? Now, in terms of as someone transitioning into product management from an entirely different background, how do you make up and be employable? One of the ways is first through taking going through classes like this, right? It gives you, most of you have a bit of knowledge, and some of you are even doing really well. I know that the last assignment, most of you did really well because you're already building product sense, right? Product sense is something when you are looking at a product and you're able to see the product and respond from your product manager perspective. Now, I noticed that most of you are already building that muscle. So in being employable, first of all, is you create your CV to show that you have gone through such a class like this, right? And how do you do that? I'm going to talk about how to. Maybe we'll do a maybe we'll do maybe we'll do a live, not necessarily live, but maybe we'll talk over how to show these things that we have all learned, how to write it on your CV. But one of the ways is you showcase what you learned through your CV. Another one is you have a portfolio, right? So now these grocery pay hypothetical products that we have worked on now, it can work as a portfolio, right? You put everything together in a Google slide and you attach it on your CV. That works as a portfolio. Another way is we're going to do a project. Whatever project we do, it can also serve as a portfolio that will be on your CV. And so in this way, you are able to let your audience or whoever is viewing your CV see that even though I don't have experience in products, I have gone through a product learning course that has helped me build product sense, and these are the things that we have done. Because you're applying for an internship role, internship opportunities don't expect you to have product experience. They might, or they will expect you to have transferable skills or transferable experience. So if you already have a bit of experience in other industries, just being able to show that, okay, the experience you have will be relevant to your current role as a product manager, will be great. But just even showing what you've learned, just so you can get into the interview room, and then you now blow the ball out of the park. So, in summary, first, don't let age deter you. I'll say apply regardless of age. Let your CV do the talking for you. Let them, because again, the thing about removing yourself from opportunities before you even get to interview is they don't get to experience you. So you now you're saying, oh, I don't want to apply for you don't want to apply for something, because they say they want bachelors in this thing. You'll be shocked that somebody else that even has bachelor in arts, something like maybe you even have a related degree in science, but it's not specifically what they're asking for. Someone who even has a left field bachelor is going to apply and is going to get that role. Why? Because they took the audacity to apply and they got called to interview, and they impressed the interviewer to the point where they are convinced to take a chance on them. So don't let that deter you. Augusta, your hands have been up, but I can't find you anymore. Augusta, you can ask your question.
All right. My question is still on this job requirement stuff, right? I've been just playing around job job offers, just checking their requirements to know, okay, if this I have knowledge of this, I have knowledge of this and all that. So I saw a job offer that is for they're looking for a junior product manager, but in the job description they are looking that you have an idea on product strategy. You'll be conversant with product strategy. And I recall that when we did a class, you mentioned that this product strategy is for senior level product managers. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's correct.
Yeah.
So they accent this particular requirement from a junior product manager. Does it mean that as a junior product manager, you should also have an idea of product strategy? That's my question.
Do you have the job? Can you share?
I didn't take a screenshot, but I'll check. It's in my email, I think. I'll check. Then let me check it now. If I can
Okay.
find it in my email, I'll send it to the group now. Let me check.
When you check and you're back, I will answer your question. Just check. Livingstone.
Okay, yeah, another question. I during the week one this thing, introduction to product management, I I think that yeah, I want to know the aspect of, because after the week one we just moved to the research of a thing and all. So you know that okay, we are building a product, and I just get to understand that there are some tools that will be used even when we are building the product. Like there are some digital products to be used in building the product. So what level of product management is responsible for the product that will be used to build our own product? I don't know if you get my question. Like
I don't know.
let's so what are the more like a levels of product management? Like are there types? Like as a company now, we'll have definitely have some products that we will use to build products for customers. So I don't get that part.
Okay, so you're asking what are the third party products that are used to build a product? That's your
Levels
question.
of that kind of a thing. Yes.
Your question is a bit complicated because there are tools that you use to bring the entire product together. And if you see, for every For every session or for every topic that we address week on week, I gave you specific tools. Now, for example, with user research, you use Google Form, you use survey tools like SurveyMonkey, Hotjar to conduct surveys, right? We also use Google Meet to conduct qualitative interviews. Now, that's how you conduct interviews, conduct user research, gather your data. Your designer uses Figma to design. You use Figma to map your flowchart. Now, when they finish designing, the developers have their own tools that they use to code. They use GitHub. They use a number of tools to code the product. When they are done coding the products, mind you, the developers create a sort of a back-end environment, right? A database. And that is where they build. So I think you're asking about the technical angle of building a product, Abby?
Like I'm thinking of, okay, for instance, is it possible I build a product for a company, like a company that is manufacturing a digital product? So that product will be this what I'm supplying will be what they will use to build their own digital products. That's the kind of angle I'm seeing it.
Yeah, that's a very
Like,
technical. Then you will have to be a software engineer to build to build such a tool.
wow.
So your developer is the one who will give you the environment, the platform that they will now start to implement the screens, and they'll code they'll code your requirements into functionality. When it's ready, they push it to a test environment like Firebase for you to test. And then when it's live, they push the app to the app store. So if you want to build the tools that product teams are using, then you have to be a software engineer or a software developer.
Okay. So can I ask the next question?
Yes, you can.
Okay, the next question is under the product metrics. That's week 4. And I want to ask if there are metrics for each stage, like meet up standard. Like if I don't meet this standard of like a mark of success in one stage, then I can't cross to another. Like is there like that? Is there something like that? Because the
Mm.
metric I saw is just more like, okay,
On
maybe for
product.
pricing. Yeah, when something like that. So are there, maybe for example, I've written my roadmap, I've built like my roadmap, it has been built. If I don't meet up to a kind of a standard where, okay, I am pleased with this roadmap, can I just, are there metrics in those regards? That's
So
another
you
question.
for a roadmap, no, but there are metrics for other people's work that is dependent on products.
Mm,
Again, going back to design, if design does not, your metric for gauging other stakeholders' work is your PRD. So if design has gone to design something that is not good, you who documented the requirements, you look at your requirements and you gauge what is designed versus what was expected. If it doesn't tally, you give review because you do a design review before handing over the screens to your developers. You do a design review. If it doesn't meet up to expectation, you tell your designer or whoever that this is not what is on PRD, and they go back to the drawing board and they implement the changes and the feedback that you've given them. The same thing for developers. If developer have gone to cook beans and you're looking at the PRD and PRD does not match with what they've released for you for QA, that's why you're doing QA. You are doing QA against your requirements that have been documented. If it doesn't tally, you tell them this is not what was defined in the requirement for you, and they go back to the drawing board and they fix it. So there is the benchmarks are for other people's job, but in terms of you as a product manager, someone who will be checking that your job is up to standard is most likely your manager, right? So when you've written it, you're not working in isolation. You write the PRD, you are handing it over to your manager to review. They review, they tell you what to tweak, what to change, and then before it's handed over to the development team. Livingstone, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, yes, thank you, ma. My last question, please don't rest. My last question is that the class you took about the higher power, low, something like that. I really did not get it because I read and read and read and still didn't get it. That division of the thing that you taught us.
Okay, we can go over it.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
just note it down. I want when I am done with week 1 to 3, we'll go over yours. What
Okay, ma.
week that is stakeholder matrix?
Maybe week. I forgot. Maybe week 5 or so.
Check and confirm which week.
Okay.
Which week and which session? Gloria. Gloria.
Okay, good evening. Yes, good evening. Thank you so much. With all that has been said so far about product management, I would like a summary of the skill sets needed for a product manager. Like, because it's obvious that as much as we're not into it's tech, so there's a need for the ability to be able to navigate many tools, but what other skill sets, especially because we're thinking of becoming employable. So the skill sets that will be key for our success in this new field.
I think in week 1 I mentioned soft skills that are necessary for a product manager.
Yes.
We'll go over week 1. Don't worry, we'll go over
Okay.
week. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Augusta, these responsibilities are not for an internal. What's the role? Junior product manager. How many years of experience did they say they expect the person to have? Okay, so that's why I said the other day when we were having a conversation around roadmap to employment, I did mention that for you who do not have experience, you should be going for product intern roles because this is very clear now that they expect this person to have some sort of experience. So the typical roadmap for employment in products is product intern, junior product manager slash associate product manager. So you can either be an associate PM or a junior PM, and then you become a PM, and then you move to senior PM. Let me look for a roadmap for you guys on the. I think I have seen one somewhere. So if they're saying they want a junior PM, they're most likely not talk about. They're most likely not talking about someone like you who doesn't have experience. Even from the experience section, you can see that this is not who they are looking for. Because even though you can see roadmap planning and execution here, they want someone who's experienced in roadmap. So it's not even I know how to do it. It's you've done it before and we want to see you do it properly. So this is not for entry level Augusta. After this class, I'm going to share a document that I think I found somewhere on what's the roadmap to what the roadmap to product management is from entry level to product intern to product management. I'm going to share that. Okay, so let's do our week 1 to week 3 recap as promised. Let me pull up my documents. Livingston, was the question you asked, was it week 4? Week 4, which session of week 4? Week 3, session 2, all right. So week 1. Ten years experience for what? That's a senior PM. Week 1. Let me just download it. All right, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Let me know when you can see my screen, please. Type in chat if you can see my screen. Is it clear? Okay. All right. So, this is for the benefits of the new students. People are the ones joining us back. But let's talk about it. So, by this stage, we already know what product management is. But I'll just give a very brief summary of what a product manager is. So, this Venn diagram represents product management, and you're in the middle. Right. So as a product manager, you are at the intersection of UX being user experience and user interaction. We've talked about this already, technology and business, right? So you are here, which means you are constantly juggling the requirements for user experience, right? You are factoring in what is the user experience that my users are going to have on my products. You factor that in. Technology, which is you're thinking about, okay, what is the type of technology what kind of tech are we building? Is it a mobile app? Is it a web application? And then you define what that means for the users. In that, what that means is if you are building a web application, right? It means your application is going to be only accessible on the web, which means you are thinking about interoperability, your users being able to use your product across different type of websites, different type of devices, and then tech also involves product testing. So when developers have built the product for you, I have explained that you are most likely going to have QA testers, but if you don't, you can do some measure of product testing. And then business, you are constantly thinking about the organization you work for is not a charity organization, it's not an NGO, and so they are also optimizing for revenue. So as a product manager, you are constantly thinking about how your futures aligns with business initiatives. This feature that we are launching now, for example, if your product is trying to launch a virtual card, how do we make money from this? Now, you don't make money from every product. Some features are just, I beg your pardon, you don't make money from every feature, right? And I explained that a feature is referred to as a mini product. So sometimes when I'm talking about products, I might be talking about a feature depending on the context of the conversation. Now, you don't make money from every single feature. Some features are just for customer delight, right? Some features are just there for vanity, just so our customers can stay on our product. But overall, as when you're thinking about the product as a product manager, you're constantly thinking about how does this product make money. And one exercise we did when we addressed this in week 1 was we I wanted people, and we're going to repeat it again. So I'm going to call on a couple of you, especially the new students, and you're going to tell me what products that is on the market and what they are, what you think their revenue model is. And when I say revenue model, I don't mean you should come and be telling me finance term, but just even from a user perspective, right? What is their differentiator, or how do you think that they are making money? Because that's something I do personally. If I download an app, I'm just so curious, how are they making money from this thing? If it's a fintech app, for example, they're probably making money from transaction charges, they're probably making money from virtual card creation, virtual card transactions. All of these areas are where they're making money from. And so as a PM, you're managing a product, you are thinking about revenue generation is at the back of your mind. Now, who is a product manager? If we don't know what a product manager is at this point, I will have to call some of you in for questioning. But a product manager is the person who identifies a customer needs, defines the user requirement that solves a specific customer pain point, documents the relevant requirements, translates these requirements to actionable items for the technical team to build, guides the development process to ensure developers build the products according to documented product flows and user journeys, and ensure release of a defect-free product into the hands of users, all the while balancing in product objective with business goals. This entire statement now sums up everything we've talked about in this class, right? We talked about identifying a customer need, and this is when you conduct user research to identify you have a problem. You conduct user research to validate that your problem is actually a real problem, not a perceived problem. You conduct user research, you conduct market research to see this market that our product is launching, is it viable for our products? You conduct competitive analysis. What other products are like our products on the market? Who are our competitors, and how have they been able to build their products and cater to their own audience? Right. Then in defining the user requirement, this is when you write your PRD. You write your PRD, and your PRD is informed from the user research that you have done. You also draft your roadmap. You draft your backlog that will be relevant to the team that will be developing this product. Now, you translate the requirements to actionable items. This is when you would have mapped your flowchart for your product design team. This is also when you will hand over your PRD to your developers to say, okay, this is what I want you guys to build. So that's why I said that your PRD is like your manual. This is when you say, this is what I want you to build, and this is how I want you to build it. And they build it according to the spec that you have defined on your PRD. Then you also guide development process. So it's not enough to just say, oh, yeah, take go and build. You are going to also be there to provide support to the team that is building. They will have questions, right? You will have a team. The handover is not just, I'm sending you a link and that's it. You get on a call, you talk about what your expectations for the product is. Sometimes you run them through everything that's on your PRD. And then you guide them through. In the course of them building, they're going to have some questions. It's very likely that they will have questions. You are present because, again, you defined the requirements. So they're going to come to you to say, hey, this thing that you said we should do it like this, are you sure we should do it like this, or we should do it like that? Right? You guide the entire development process to ensure that everybody is building the way the product should be built. And then when they have finished coding it, they give you a test product, right? They release a test build into a test environment. And during QA testing, I mentioned that a tool you can, I mentioned several tools that can be used for product testing, but one of them was Firebase. And I mentioned that they release a build, especially mobile applications, to Firebase, and you conduct QA testing. Now, I also mentioned that sometimes you will have a QA tester on ground, but if you don't have a QA tester, you should be able to test the basic requirements for your product, right? And you will most likely be called in to step in to test. Now, you test your product and ensure that testing is the last development stage before launch. You test your product, and then as you finish testing, you push to marketing, or you give a green light that the product is ready for launch, and then marketing starts to roll out launch content on your social media or on your external communication channels. Now, as you're doing all of these things, you're also trying your best to balance product objective with business goals. What does this mean? It means that while you are even doing your user requirements, while you are even documenting it, you have it at the back of your mind that this future, remember, you would have done your roadmap actually. So while you're doing your roadmap, remember when I talked about how we should write a roadmap, you attach initiative to it, right? Is it this feature you're launching? What is the purpose? Is it for user satisfaction? Is it for retention? Is it for acquisition? What are we building this feature for, right? And so in doing so, you are also factoring in, okay, this is the business goal, or this is the user goal that is attached to this product. Now this is just the summation of your job as a product manager. Now, as you grow, it gets more advanced, it gets more complex than this. And senior product managers find themselves doing more strategy. But for entry-level PMs like you guys, you will be required to do core product functions. Nobody should actually be calling on entry-level PMs to do product strategy, because you're still trying to develop your product sense. You're still trying to develop what is right and wrong for the product. Now, as I said already, it is your job to always incorporate business objective into product features. So, like, ask if you are on a project, you need to understand how the product intends to make money, and then you incorporate that into your features. If we go with our hypothetical product, which is Grocery Pay, the way Grocery Pay intends to make money, for example, is maybe they'll run a freemium pricing strategy, right? So some features will be free, some will be put behind a paywall. Maybe you want to charge a stipend on every order, right? Or whatever services you want to offer, but you are constantly putting in, or you're constantly trying to think about, you're cognizant of the fact that this product has to make money for the business to be sustainable. And as a product manager, as you're building out your features, you are also factoring in revenue generating features or revenue generating strategies that will help our products make money. And in doing so, you will now find that you're collaborating with stakeholders from other departments so that you can achieve your goals of revenue generation for the business. I don't think we need to go over importance of product management. So I'm just going to go for the core topics that we might have issues. Augusta, you're the one who said week 1. Which part of week 1 would you like me to focus on? Can everybody still hear me? All right. Augusta, I'm waiting for you. Is Augusta still on the call? Okay. Okay, let's go to session 2 of week 1. Even though, again, I really think week 1 is very straightforward, but let's go to session 2, week 1. All right, let's just go over it again. Session 2. Okay, the roles and responsibilities of a product manager. And Gloria asked this question when she said, what are the skills? Yes, it makes sense when you now put it in retrospect, considering all that we've covered so far. Now, what are the soft skills? This is something that Gloria asked just now. What are the soft skills that a product manager should have? And one of them is communication. You would have already gleaned from the entire course so far that you are going to be communicating with multiple stakeholders as a product manager. Multiple stakeholders. Like, you're also going to have random meetings, right? And so you need to hone very strong communication skills. Another one is be able to lead with influence. And I said that as a product manager, yes, you are most likely going to be leading a team in quotes, but you cannot force anybody to do anything. You do not have direct authority, right? You are not a lot of resource on the internet call product managers mini CEOs, but it's not really, you're not really a mini CEO in my opinion, because you cannot exert the kind of authority that a CEO will be able to exert on his staff. And so as a product manager, you need to learn and understand how to lead with influence. And what does that look like? Leading with influence looks like you understanding your stakeholders and understanding how to influence them, right? Now, you need to understand that, okay, I'm collaborating with this person. And so you need to have some measure of relationship with every stakeholder that you are going to be working with. You need to learn how to cajole them to do your work. You need to learn how to hold them accountable. Nobody's saying go and be their friend, but understand the people that you work with and understand how to work with them in a way that they will be efficient and deliver the job that you need them to deliver. Right? That's what leading with influence is all about. And in the eventuality that you are working with a difficult stakeholder, you'll be able to know how to manage them, who can influence them, who is their manager, right? But you won't know their manager if you've not even tried to understand what their job is and what they are doing and how they function on your team. So leading with influence just essentially learning to influence your team to do the job that is required of them. And this might look like, you might be thinking, why do I need to influence anybody to do their job? But humans are very funny. Sometimes you will need to follow up on your task. Right. And sometimes people will just be giving you excuses. And if you don't know how to manage stakeholders, if you don't know how to lead them to deliver the project, or if you don't know how to lead them to deliver the products, you will run into issues with top management, because management is going to be asking you, what's up with your products? When are we going live? Remember when we talked about product launch, I said that you set your launch dates as far back as before a line of code is written. And so everything you're doing from once serious product development work has started, it is raced to the finish line. And so if there's any delay, you answered week 7 assignment recently. So you'll see that if there's any delay, it is still you who will be responsible for communicating this delay to stakeholders, which means you are most definitely going to be held accountable. And so you need to learn how to lead your stakeholders or people collaborating with you on a product with influence. Now, stakeholder management is another one. Because you juggle working across different departments, you need to learn how to manage stakeholder expectation. And this is where that Mandela stakeholder grid comes into play, because if you don't know who is who, you will just be swayed by everybody. And let me explain. If you don't know who you should be deferring to in terms of, okay, we can incorporate your feedback into the products. If you don't know the role of every stakeholder, because you're going to have multiple stakeholders, your colleagues are also stakeholders, people from other departments are stakeholders, because you are going to have some measure of relationship with people, you might just find that Tunde from sales might just be telling you that, you should put this in your product. I think it would be really good. But Tunde from sales might be a stakeholder that has low power, low interest. And if you don't know, you're going to add it to the backlog that your developers need to work on, right? So you need to, in being able to manage your stakeholders, you need to know who your stakeholders are and how much influence, how much power, and how interested they are in the success of your products. And then you prioritize accordingly. which leads me to prioritization. We've learned about prioritization frameworks, right? But in product management, you find that you most likely join a company or you most likely join a team, and there are multiple features. In fact, you join and they'll tell you that please we want to build these 10 features, right? But they'll tell you that we only have maybe 3 months to build these 10 features. It is not feasible. But if you don't know how to use prioritization frameworks, you will not know that it is not feasible and you will not even know how to explain it. But in using prioritization frameworks such as Moscow framework, for example, you prioritize, you identify what are your must-have features, you identify what is your should-have, you identify your could-have, which also are your nice-to-have, and you identify your won't-have for that duration, that time duration of giving you, and which means when you are now telling your stakeholder, your CEO, you are able to clearly show this is our justification for the selection of these features. These 4 features are products that must go live for our MVP. These 3 features are on our should have. If we're able to meet up with our must have features, then we'll go with these ones next, and then we'll go. So it gives you like an order of categorizing or prioritizing the features in the order that you should be launching. So one soft skill is being able to prioritize, being able to, and even aside of the products, even as a product manager yourself, outside of even managing the products, you're going to manage stakeholders. And so you need to also understand some stakeholders that or some responsibilities that you don't really need to attend to today, because maybe your table is full. You need to be able to understand, you need to be able to recognize that, oh, this thing, we can do it tomorrow or we can do it next week. We don't have to do it today. So prioritization is a very relevant set of skills. User empathy. User empathy is really good. It's a really good soft skill that a product manager should have, because you're going to be designing the user experience for your users. And so user empathy is just essentially you being able to put yourself in the shoes of your user, right? So if you cannot empathize with your users, and what does empathy look like? Empathizing with your users looks like you being Nigerian, for example, and you are designing for Nigerian Gen Zs, right? You are building a product for Nigerian Gen Zs. Even if you are not a part of that target audience, you need to be able to understand what are their problems, right? You need to understand what are the problems that Nigerian Gen Zs are experiencing in this particular area that our product is solving. What are the problems they're experiencing, and how can our product properly solve for this problem? And so this is where user research will also come in, where you conduct user research and you do not let your personal bias creep in, where you are saying, what kind of foolish problem is this that you people are experiencing? Why a 22-year-old person would experience kind of problem? You don't get to do that, because you are now letting your bias creep into your the development of your product, and that is problematic. And so you learn to empathize with your user. You don't trivialize the problems that they say that they are facing, and you just empathize with it and try to build a solution that clearly and appropriately solves for this problem. We don't need to cover the roles and responsibilities, so let's move to week 2 very quickly. In week 2, we talked about user research and product requirement gathering, and I know this is something that a lot of people, especially the new students, had issues with. So, what is user research? User research is the act of gathering information about your users' pain points and behavior. It is just essentially asking the person you are building for, this problem that you say you are having, how do we really solve this problem for you? That's essentially what user research is. It is you talking to the people that you are building for and asking them, how can I solve this problem for you properly? You ask them, what is this problem? This problem, is it true that you're experiencing this problem? Please, what is the extent of the problem that you're experiencing? And how can I solve this problem for you in a way that makes sense? And I mentioned that at larger technology companies, user research is a standalone discipline. So at companies like Google, Meta, they might have a user researcher functioning that is responsible for conducting user research. However, we're in Nigeria and our ecosystem is still growing. So what that means is there are some responsibilities that will fall under a product manager's purview. And so you will be tasked with conducting user research. The reason why it is important is clear. So let's go to the type of user research. Now, there are two categories of user research: quantitative and qualitative user research. Now, quantitative research involves indirectly gathering information using research tools. I know some of us would have had experiences with companies or brands where you just get an email and they send you a form in the email and they're saying, and the form is, or there's a button, and the button is tell us what you think or tell us how we are doing, and you click on it and it directs you to a form on the web. That brand or that company is conducting quantitative user research, right? So they are gathering feedback for the products. Now, quantitative research can be done for existing products or new products looking to launch on the market. And for new products, how do you get users? Because for existing products, it's easy to get users to participate in your quantitative research because you already have an existing user base on your products. You already have a Google form. You already have their emails, their contact information. So it's easy to communicate with them. You probably already have social media channels that are established. But for a new product looking to penetrate the market, how do you get users? Now, you already have a target audience. Every product in the market has a target audience that they are targeting. Now, in knowing your target audience, you go to where they are. And I mentioned that a couple of the places to find users that will participate in your quantitative research is going on online forums, going on Facebook groups or Slack groups, and just but you don't just do this sporadically. You first of all, I mentioned that you should be respectful of the audience that are there. You don't just go and be sending your form anyhow and say, "Please, help me fill it." You take permission from the admin or whoever is in charge. You also make sure that wherever you are sending your form to, the members of your target audience are on that group. So, for example, if you want to put out a group on a Slack group, for example, if you want to put out a Google form on a Slack group, for example, you have to make sure that the target audience that are present in the members of that Slack group fit into your target audience, right? But quantitative research is just gathering information using research tools such as survey forms or even Google forms to collect and analyze data. Qualitative research, Oyekachi and Kabiru, I have been announcing that attendance form is on the chat. If Joshua is on the call, Joshua, please attend to this for them. All right. Qualitative research. Qualitative research is more focused on analyzing behavioral patterns, and essentially, qualitative research is conducting live interviews. Right. So it's just you conducting live interviews with your users. And you can use tools like Google Meet, Zoom. I don't know if Skype is still existing, but essentially any tools, even WhatsApp, any tool that will allow you to conduct a live, either remote or in-person interview with your users, or for new products, users who fit into your demographic. So if your demographic is people age, like our hypothetical products and demographic was people age between 20 to 40. If within your circle you have people who are in that demographic and they're experiencing the same problem that your product is trying to solve, you can conduct user interviews on them. But you have to be careful because of that personal relationship, they might be biased in their feedback, right? They might not They might not want to give you harsh or clear feedback, which is why when some of you conducted your user research, I mentioned my feedback that I gave was that you asked leading questions. And let me address what leading question is. Leading question is when you are asking a question and you're already posing the solution to that question as an option. For example, you're interviewing people and you're asking them about user interview. Right, you're conducting user interviews on people and you're trying to understand what is their issue that they're facing with grocery shopping. Right, you're trying to understand, okay, what is this problem? And then you are now asking them, would you use a product that would solve for this problem? That's a good question to have, right? Because that also sort of validates no, you can conduct qualitative research before. It's an alternative to quantitative. So it's either you do quantitative or you do qualitative. Right? It's either or. It's not sometimes you can do both. Depends on your preference, but it can be an alternative. So it's not before MVP, it's also user research, right? Now, you might be asking this question because you don't already have users and you're trying to launch an MVP. And I just said that you can go to forums, online groups, WhatsApp groups, Slack group, Facebook groups, where your target audience are, right? You go there and you ask them questions that will inform your product development. So you can still it might just be difficult for an MVP. Conducting qualitative interview might be difficult for products that are new to the market because it's be difficult to get people to. I mean, it's one thing to get people to even fill your form in the first place. It's another thing to get them to get on a call to answer you. So again, depends. You can go with the part that has less friction and go with that part. But it's either or, as I've said already. Now, qualitative research is more focused on analyzing behavioral patterns, and you're trying to understand who, why, and it involves a direct interaction with your users. So we don't have to do user research methods. I guess we can go to the next one. Okay, under here, I even addressed ways to find user research. Ways to find an audience for your user research. Leveraging communities whose members fit into your target demographics, sharing survey forms, and conducting interviews with individuals from your personal network are ways to find engaging audiences who might be willing to help you gather the relevant information for your products. Now, I talked about ethical considerations, but I won't spend too much time here. But as ethical consideration is just when you are conducting user research, you don't just do your subjects anyhow. So you're transparent with them about the purpose of whatever information you're gathering. You're telling them this is why we are conducting this interview. And if you are unable to mention the name of the product, maybe your product is still in stealth mode and it's not time for you to make it clear for whatever reason, try your best to give any form of information that you can share. Be neutral. And this is especially for when you're conducting qualitative interviews. And because when you're conducting qualitative interviews, so you can see your users and they can see you back. And so when you're asking a question and they give you a feedback that doesn't align with you, or you're being sensitive as per you're the product manager and you don't like their response, your body language can make them alter honest feedback. So if they're already telling you, I don't like this product, it's trash, it's this, it's that, and you're frowning your face, they'll just start lying. Oh no, it's not that bad though. But now what you've succeeded in doing is that you've influenced them and they are unable to give you the kind of feedback, because even when they're telling you it's trash, is this, is that, there's going to be an element of feedback in that response that will help you improve your product. But if you let your sentiments or your personal bias to creep in because you feel very attached to products, it's my product, why would you be talking like this about my product, yada yada yada, you don't get honest feedback. And so you try to be neutral, Don't give away too much from your facial expression or your body language, and then consider privacy and data confidentiality. Now, if you say you want to, for whatever reason, you want to publish the feedback from your research on the internet, you do not include your users' personal information like their phone number, their email, even sometimes name. I know some of us would have read some articles where the names of the subjects of that interview was changed to protect the identity of the subject. That's you being ethical in conducting user research or user interview. And so you consider your users' privacy and data confidentiality. You don't share their personal data. You try to protect their identity because anything can happen. It's the internet. Now, the PRD. What is a PRD? PRD is a document used to gather expected requirements of the product during the product development stage. And this document is shared within the product team and sometimes with relevant cross-functional stakeholders. Now, I gave a basic outline of a PRD, and there's a video somewhere on the learning resource that just covers how I write my PRD and what is just the general practice in writing a PRD. Should we still go over PRD writing? I need more responses. PRD writing, yes or no? All right, awesome. See, we're voting. Yes or no, PRD. All right. The no's are having it too. Augusta, I want you to tell me what exactly it is that you don't understand about PRD. Augusta, raise your hand so I can grant you access to speak. Because I know this was a question that you personally asked. Augusta, can you raise your hand so I can unmute you and let you speak? All right. Tell me what exactly about the PRD is confusing. If you're speaking, I
The
can't hear you.
example of your own PRA in the learning resource, you wrote out. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Hello, ma'am. Okay, I said right in your PRD, you listed future dependencies, edge cases, and what again? So that's when, and you wrote that for this an MVP, so there's no edge case yet. And then future dependencies, you wrote that there as well. So that's my confusion. Like, assuming it's an existing product, what would I write on my future dependencies? What would I write on my edge cases?
Okay, that's
Can you hear me?
yeah. All right. So for an existing product, right? Future dependency is, let me think of a product that will have a future dependency. Future dependency is just how does one feature impact the other feature. That's essentially what future dependency is. So if you already have a product, right, that is existing. Okay, let's say you are launching a fintech. Your users can already transfer. Then you now launched a virtual card feature. Then now you say you want to launch a physical card feature, right? A possible future dependency for your physical card when you're writing the PRD can be virtual card. Why? Because they will likely interact with each other. Wherever the cards tab will be, your physical card and your virtual card will be on one tab. So feature dependency is just how does one existing feature interact with this other feature that we are wanting to launch, and how do we cater for this type of interaction, which is why I said for a new feature, for a new product that you're trying to launch, you most likely will not have feature dependencies, because the nature of an MVP is you're launching the simplest basic version of this product on the market. So it's not supposed to be complex. You're not supposed to be launching any complex features as at when you're launching your MVP. Yes, it's just like doing regression testing. So while you write your feature dependencies, you do it at the beginning, and regression testing happens at the ending. Regression testing is something that will now happen to see how does it really interact live? We built it now, real life. How does it interact? And how do we cater for it? And this is why feature dependency, documenting feature dependency is very important, because when you've documented it, the developers will code, they will cater for this interaction and they'll code it into the product. And so when they are also conducting regression testing, they're able to look back at your documentation and say, oh, this is how the PM said this feature should interact to. And so remember I said you also used your requirement documentation to do testing. So you're testing against what you've already defined. And so if you don't define feature dependency, it might be difficult to do testing. The same for edge case. An edge case is an unexpected scenario. So a regular user journey on your product might be user downloads my product on the mobile app, user logs into my product, and user completes their sign up process, and then user onboards onto the homepage of the product, right? That's a regular user journey. And then, okay, let me even use deleting an account. Now, a regular user journey for deleting an account is user goes to settings, user logs into the product, user goes to settings, user clicks on delete account profile, a user successfully deletes account profile. Now, an edge case in such an action, right, can be there's money in the user's account and they want to delete their account. How do we do it? So it's an unexpected, it's something that is outside of the regular user pathway that a user would take on your products, because all they want to do is delete their account. But you cannot let them delete their account because there's money there. So in such a scenario, an edge case will now cater for user deleting an account while account is still funded. And then you now document how such a scenario should be handled. And in documenting that type of thing, your design will also cater for it, so that the designer will also design screens that aligns with what you documented, so that it's clear for them. So I hope I have answered your question, Augusta. You can let me know if it's clear or if it's not clear, and which part is not clear. The people that said we should do PRD writing, I hope I have answered everybody's question here. Livingstone, you can ask your question. David Abulu, is your question related to this PRD writing?
No, it's not related. It's still not that concept. That's how.
Okay, let me handle PRD and then I will come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
So Livingstone, you said in a case where the edge case isn't known and the user encountered an issue with it, what's the way out? So in a case where the edge case isn't known and the user encountered an issue, they're most likely going to reach out to customer success to say, I'm trying to do this thing on your products and this thing is not working. And so in them asking, in them telling customer success, they've made the team or identify an edge case that they did not foresee. What now happens is you now give them a manual way to solve it. Maybe on the back end, your back end developer can help them do what they want to do. But now this is user feedback that you should now use to optimize the products. No, Gloria, it's not usually a bug. There are times where some there can be an oversight in developing a product, and you just don't cater to something that you should have catered for. But you first of all manually resolve the user issue by maybe your backend engineer will step in, and then you now optimize the product and say, oh, this is an identified gap, and we need to incorporate this gap into the product. For example, let me give you an example that will put this into perspective. On my product, we had a tier verification system on the product, but we needed to cater to a situation where a user's documentation has failed review, and we want them to be able to. We didn't want to do it back end. We wanted them to be able to manually, or not manually, but wanted them to be able to do it on the product. So we wanted to be able to tell them that this thing has failed and this is what you should do. And this was a product of user feedback, because initially we had just catered to you finish your tier upgrade and you move to the next tier. But we noticed that we had customers that were calling back to say, this thing that we're trying to do, our documentation did not pass, and we don't know why it did not pass. And we're just informed that it did not pass, but we are not able to take action without you stepping in. And so that was an edge case that we didn't initially think of. And so what happens is we resolve the user's issue while the product team internally were working on incorporating this feedback into the product and then providing a way for the users to update their information on the app. So it is possible for an edge case to crop up, but when they do, you take it as user feedback and you optimize the product for that. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible, but that's more technical. Livingstone, you're asking technical questions. Let's stick to the basics. Okay, so let me move on to... Have you ever seen an app that has a manual? Livingstone, have you ever seen an app that has a manual? Not a physical product. You are overthinking it. I think you're overthinking it, but you can gamify the products in such a way that you guide the users on what you want to do. And that can be defined on your documentation. You let them know that this is what I expect you guys to do. This is how I want users to be guided on our product. And this is the pathway I think users should take. So you can do user guides on the products, but user manual is not a thing. So I guess that is it we are running out of time. I wanted to take user guide. Okay, John, I think you are the one who had a question that was not PRD related. Can you raise up your hand so I can grant you access to speak? Okay, David Abdul.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So my question is, I think there was a time someone asked if we continue to have access to this material. Then you suggested we should download them. I have tried to download. I don't think that if I currently know how to do that on the Google Classroom. So if that feature is not possible, I'm requesting if it's possible for all of these materials to be put in a drive that we'll have access to and then download them.
You can't download it. Is anybody else having the same issue? Has anybody tried to download?
Or if you could just do a demo to show how we can download from the classroom.
Okay. Livingstone says someone has shared it. All right. So, David, they are giving you suggestion in chat. I can't hear you. Okay.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, you can just ask them how. Phil is saying you can download the slide, so you can ask him how to go about it.
Okay, I will ask. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Emmanuel, you're saying we should do week 5. Week 5 is agile methodology. What's confusing about agile? John, you can go ahead and speak. Emmanuel, which part of agile is confusing? So we can save time and don't take everything. John, you can unmute your mic.
Am I being heard?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Hello? Okay. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to contribute concerning what the last speaker talked about, the materials on the Google Classrooms, downloading it. What I do normally is, as I click on the materials, I usually use my Google Drive to open it. Once it opens on Google Drive, if you go to the options, you'll see send. So what I do is I send it to my Google Drive and then save it, create a folder there, and then I save it there. Once it's inside your Google Drive, it is opened, most likely you can be able to download it. You can always access it any day, anytime, as long as you have access to your Gmail, the particular Gmail you're using. So that's for that. The second thing I wanted to say is concerning what you asked us to look out for PM intern roles. I've seen a couple of it, but most of them that I see, they are merged with marketing. They say your role has to do with product management and marketing. I don't know what you have to say about that.
That's interesting. But okay, what are the responsibilities in the marketing that they said you would do? Did they outline the responsibilities?
I didn't see. You just wrote that is it role or job description, PM and marketing.
I mean, it happens. I mentioned during when we were talking about go-to-market strategy that sometimes you will find that you might be doing marketing responsibilities. But I imagine that the marketing they would have outlined the responsibilities because when you see a job description, they'll tell you what the roles are. Right. So in seeing the roles, you will see what your responsibilities are. But for an intern, maybe you might just be posting on social media, just very basic marketing responsibilities.
Okay.
Yeah, it's possible. It happens. It happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That will be all for now.
You're welcome. Okay. Livingstone, you said we should talk about week 3. Emmanuel, I'm still waiting for your feedback, but Livingstone, which topic in week 3? We talked about product strategy, product vision. I want specific questions so that we are not wasting too much time. Oh, okay, stakeholder matrix. All right. Okay, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen? Okay, so stakeholder management. Week 1, just now, I talked about one of the skills, soft skills that a product manager should have is managing stakeholders. Now, who is a stakeholder? A stakeholder is, in layman's terms, a stakeholder is anybody you're collaborating with on this, your product management journey. That's a stakeholder. Anybody that has some measure of input over your products is a stakeholder. It might be small input, big input, direct input, indirect input. As far as the person has some measure of input, maybe in terms of feedback or in terms of effort, or they need to do something for you in building these products, they are a stakeholder. Now, a stakeholder is an individual with an interest in something. Hence, effective stakeholder management involves understanding the needs of your stakeholders and satisfying the expectations of everyone involved. Let's go to the stakeholder matrix. Mendel's matrix. Now, before we get there, you need to identify who a stakeholder is and isn't, and then categorize. So effective stakeholder management involves you identifying who a stakeholder is and is not. Categorize your stakeholders into a grid matrix known as Mendel's stakeholder matrix. According to the placement of each stakeholder on the matrix, you align your stakeholder management efforts accordingly. Now, this is the matrix. And I said this area are high power, high interest, right? Yes, high power, high interest. This area, they are high power, low interest. Now, high power, high interest means they have veto power over your products, and they are very interested in your products. An example of a high power, high interest stakeholder will be your CEO, your line manager. These are high power, high interest. Context setters, this area, they are high power, which means they have high power over the direction, over the impacts of, they have increased impacts over your products, but they're not interested like that, right? So you see this area, they are interested. They're very interested, and they are powerful enough to make decisions that will impact your product. This area, context setters, are very interested. Sorry, they are not as interested as these guys, but they also have the same measure of power over your product. So they can also make veto decisions. People like your CTO, your investors, actually your investors even work here, but your investors can also be here. Maybe they are not as directly interested in your products. They just want to hear about outcomes. Whereas your CEO and your manager will be very, very invested in the outcome, the projection of your products, how your product is progressing, all of that. So while these guys, they have high power, same power as these guys, but they're not as interested as these guys are. Now, these people are, let's see, who are subjects? They have high power, but, they have high interest, but low power. What that means, these guys, they have high interest, which means they are very interested in your product, but they cannot impact your product like that. So whilst their feedback will be very good for your product, not taking their feedback doesn't really have too much consequence on the output of your product. Do you get what I mean? So they are high interest but low power. Now these ones are low interest, low power. What that means is they are spectators. That's why they are crowd. They are not necessarily interested in your product per se. So they are just observing. And your competitors can fall into this category where they don't use your products. So they are not interested per se. So they're just observing, they're spectators. Now, people here are your CEO, your line managers. People here might be your CTO, your investors, or third party partners. People here can be your customers. The customers are very interested, but they cannot say, let's sunset your products. Do you understand? They cannot make managerial decisions that will impact the direction of your products. Whereas these guys can make managerial decisions that will impact your products. They can say, we are sunsetting your product today, and there's nothing you can do about it. If these guys say, we're sunsetting your products, these guys can have inputs and say, no, let's not sunset it. This is why, and they can make a case for your products. So how do you now manage this? You've identified, good job on identifying which stakeholders fit in which grid. How does this help you? Now, people who fall into your players, which are your high power, high interest stakeholders, you manage them very closely. See the example I just gave. They can literally make a decision to sunset your product. And so you need to manage them closely. And this might look like giving them regular status updates, task progression, just keep touch base with them on, oh, this is what we are doing, this is where we are, because they also have very high influence over the entire organization or over the entire team. And so you want to always ensure that you have their buy-in for the tasks that you are doing, which also means that if they're giving you feedback, you don't always have to take feedback. Like I always say, you can always push back, but within reason, right? There's an extent to which you can push back for your CEO compared to your developer. And so, again, understanding who your players are helps you to manage them properly. Now, context setters, because they don't have too much interest, all you have to do is keep them satisfied. They want to just hear high-level overview of where you are with your products, or let's say you're launching a feature. They just want to have high-level overview. So you just keep them satisfied with enough information that will make them feel like, okay, we're in the know of what's happening, and they're just content with that. These ones can never be content with just high-level overview. They want to know what's going on. Subjects, who are your customers, you keep them informed, which is why you see that sometimes when some of your products have new features or there's a disruption to service, you find that you receive emails or you see social media posts. So they are constantly touching base with their subjects, and you are keeping your subjects informed. Why? Because they are very interested. They might not have veto power over your products, but you want to keep them informed because they are very interested. While these ones, you don't have to do anything. So if now you find that a stakeholder who fits into spectator, they don't use your products, they're not interested in your products or your industry, and they're giving you feedback for your products, you should know how to manage them. You understand that you actually don't have to prioritize their feedback compared to if a context setter is giving you feedback. You prioritize their feedback over these guys. So this also helps you understand how to prioritize feedbacks from your stakeholders so that you're doing it in an efficient manner. I'll just run through the copy. Now, players, which are these guys, are stakeholders in high power, high interest category, which means they have high stakes in the products and possess veto power over the products and product team. And the way to manage them is to actively engage with them and let them in on team updates. Context setters are these guys. And with context setters, they have high power but less interest in your activities. And so you manage them by sharing just enough information to keep them satisfied but not overwhelmed. Subjects, these guys. Subjects are stakeholders who have high interest in your products but wield low power over you and your team. And you manage them by providing adequate information about your products and address any complaints. And then crowd, low power, low interest, they can't do anything about your products. So just minimal efforts and just monitor them, essentially. Is this clear, Livingstone? Guys, we're out of time for today. This plenty feedback. Tomorrow we're supposed to address our projects for Emmanuel. Where's Emmanuel's feedback? Flowchart. Emmanuel, so your issue is how to write a flowchart. Is that it? Okay, maybe tomorrow we'll write a flowchart on the live class. We can't do that today, we're out of time. But tomorrow, Israel, anything metric, it will be difficult to touch on because metrics, tools for tracking product metrics, it involves practical. We don't have a product to conduct this practical on. So you can go and read on. Did you sign up on the link or watch the demo? If you use Mixpanel, for example, I shared, Israel, if you read the slide, you actually will not be asking this question because on the slide, I am sure I included Mixpanel as a tool for tracking product metrics. And I know Mixpanel has a demo. Mixpanel has a demo for product metrics, and you can play with Mixpanel even if you don't have live product data to upload on the products. And okay, so tomorrow we're going to do a flowchart. Then we are going to talk about our projects that we'll be doing for the course of this program. And I wanted us to do a live test tomorrow. So we'll see if we can still do that. If we cannot, it's fine. But if we can, just have it at the back of your mind that it is enough time. We're going to do a live test on the class tomorrow, which will count as your attendance. So get your devices ready. Hope your internet is not doing Jangolova. Just hope that everybody has the right tools. If this is going to be a blocker, yes, tomorrow. If this is going to be a blocker, maybe you don't have the right gadget or something. If we have enough people who say that they don't have the right gadget for this, then maybe we'll abort mission. But if everybody has the right tools, your phones, your laptop, whatever it is you are using, and then we'll consider doing a live test tomorrow, which will count as your assignment for this week and your attendance. So it's just 2 in 1. The stakes are very high. Anyway, have a good evening, everyone. And tomorrow we'll be back here. Tomorrow we're going to start with flowcharts. We'll start by 5:05 as usual. So if you don't come early and you're asking me a question that I've already addressed, I'm not going to actually go back because I find that that's something that happens. So if you come late and you're asking a question that has been covered, I'm so sorry. You'll have to wait for the recording to be available. But that's it. Have a good evening, everyone. See you tomorrow.